The average vacation cost for one person in the United States is a little under $2,000 per week.
You're going to be in debt for 18 years, and you're going to pay more than $9,000 in interest.
Parents often can rationalize spending in these terms for their children.
Okay, so today we're going to be going over a video titled How Americans Are Paying for Vacations. Because we're starting to get to that time of year, places are beginning to get warmer. Maybe some want to escape the end of the winter and take a vacation down south. Then we start creeping up to Memorial Day and summer is in full effect. And right off the bat, I don't have a problem with anybody going on vacation at any time if they have the money to do so. And they're not taking out loans or putting everything on credit cards and not being able to pay it back. But unfortunately, from what we're about to see, more and more Americans are doing just that. So we're going to be checking out this video and some comments that go along with it. So let's just jump right into it.
The average vacation cost for one person in the United States is a little under $2,000 per week.
More than a third of summer vacationers, 36%, are willing to take on debt this summer for their travels. The reason that's worrisome is because the average credit card charges over 20%, which is close to a record high. I don't want to tell people they can't have any fun, but this represents a lot of people taking on expensive debt. And this is the kind of thing that can linger.
Globally, 72% of millennials and 65% of Gen Zs said they plan on spending more on leisure travel in 2024 compared to 2023. In the US, 47% of millennials and 42% of Gen Zs said they plan to take on debt to go on summer vacation.
There are so many compelling reasons why people choose to take on debt to have these vacations. If your kids are dreaming of going to Disney World and there's no way the family could ever really swing it without going into debt, it could be a memory the family will have forever.
It's crazy. It always looks like Disney is the culprit when we start talking about vacation debt. And I'm not even a Disney hater. I've never gone, but I'd like to go one day. I know they have so many different parks that could be fun for the entire family, but going into debt for it, I don't know about that. $2,000 a week per person on average with a 20% interest rate on the credit cards. And that's even kind of low now. Recently, we're starting to see 30, even 35%. And almost half of millennials and Gen Z are voluntarily going into debt just to be able to go on vacation. That's insane.
Parents often can rationalize spending in these terms for their children.
Here's how Americans are paying for their summer vacations. Credit cards are the most common way people pay for their vacations. 62% of Americans surveyed said they put at least some of their trip on a credit card. Financial experts say that this can be a risky move if the borrower cannot pay the balance in time to not be charged interest.
That seems pretty obvious to me, but okay.
The average credit card balance is already over $6,000, according to TransUnion. If you add $1,000 in vacation expenses to that, maybe it feels like a drop in the bucket, but it just makes it that much harder. That $6,200, if you make minimum payments at the average interest rate of 20.7%, you're going to be in debt for 18 years, and you're going to pay more than $9,000 in interest. So some of this is making a bad situation worse.
The debt feels like this trade-off for a lot of people. It's ultimately the interchange between money for these lifelong memories and seminal experiences. And that's a sacrifice many are not only willing to make, but feel so strongly in doing so. Especially when debt is a weight many people are already accustomed to carrying.
Consumers are still out there using their credit cards. Their credit card balances are over $1 trillion now. We're seeing actual delinquencies on credit now rising. People are dipping into their savings, but bottom line is that they're still spending.
I just don't know how you could have the peace of mind while you're on vacation and actively making your life worse when you get back to reality. You aren't going to be on vacation forever, and if you're stressing about just making the minimum payments and getting by every single month, it will just snowball the problem even more. Then you'd probably want to go on vacation again to get away from all the stress, and it's just a cycle that some people can't get out of.
Not all credit card users are paying interest. 43% of Americans said they used their credit cards to pay for their trips, but paid it off in full to avoid interest. This also comes with the perk of accumulating rewards points.
Use those rewards points and miles. Put those to use. But it doesn't make sense to pay 20% interest just to get 2 or 3 or 4% cash back or airline miles.
In order to avoid interest while still having more time to pay off the credit card balance, some vacationers choose to open a new credit card that provides them with 0% interest for a set period of time.
The risk here is that once the term expires, the rate goes way up.
Another option vacationers are considering is taking out a loan for their trip. 5% of vacationers plan to take out a personal loan from a financial institution, which typically carries a lower interest rate than credit cards. The average interest rate of a personal loan in June 2024 was about 12%. 6% of those surveyed said they plan to borrow from friends or family.
Okay, so some people's rationalization to use credit cards just to be able to get points and miles back is insane to me. If they can't pay the balance back, like they said, the interest of those payments will negate all of the bonuses that you could possibly get. And of course, if you use it correctly, like they showed, I think it was 43%, pay the credit cards off in full, you can get a lot of miles and extra points and cash back, making your vacations a little bit cheaper. But many people don't understand and they just get destroyed by the interest. The other point with taking out loans, I know it was cheaper than the credit cards, but still seems insane to me. We've seen comments from you guys saying that family members were taking out HELOC loans just to go on vacation. Equity out of your own house that if you bought it before COVID, most likely could be a good financial asset for you right now. And you're taking equity away to go on a cruise or something? Like, what?
I think both of those represent a slippery slope. Personal loan rates have gone up a lot.
That debt equals irresponsible is so pejorative and such a simplistic way of looking at this, that there's all different reasons and rationales why we might intentionally go into debt. People don't think taking out a mortgage for a home and making this a lifelong investment is irresponsible, but it can be a really bad investment in a lot of cases. So you have to consider, where is it important for you to invest your money? And maybe it is this trip with these lifelong memories with your family that you'll never get back.
I'm not the biggest advocate for everybody to buy a home as soon as possible. We've gone over it many times before. The cost of actually owning a home is way more than people think, not just the mortgage payment, especially if you bought an overpriced one in the past 5 years, but at least it could be an asset to you and a place to live and sleep and call home. Comparing that to a Disney trip or something like that for the memories is wild to me. Of course, memories are great, but going into debt for those memories and possibly ruining your financial future because of that, is it really worth it? I truly just cannot get on board with that one.
Another option is loaning money to yourself out of a 401k account. A loan is different from a 401k withdrawal. Withdrawals have different rules and tax implications. Loans are not permitted from IRA or IRA-based plans. The reason someone may go this route is instead of paying interest to a financial institution, they would pay themselves back over time with interest. That payment will go back into their retirement account and eventually accumulate compound interest.
Borrowing from your retirement plan definitely worries me because really the biggest predictor of future returns is time in the market. So even though we don't know what stocks are going to do this week or this month or this year, over the long haul, they've been massive wealth builders. So I feel like that would be more of a last resort if there's kind of an emergency. Going on vacation is not an emergency.
It's just another type of loan, and now it's taken out of your retirement. I'll say this till I'm blue in the face on this channel. Retirement might be a thing of the past the way the world is going right now. So many people can't retire right now in 2025. So how much worse is it going to get in 30 or 40 years? Just the mental stress that this would cause me if I did any of these things just to get away for a week in the Bahamas would make me not enjoy the trip at all.
It is interesting how, while you could say on one hand that it's worrisome that credit card balances are near record highs and the personal saving rate is near a record low, this is powering a lot of economic growth. But what's good for the economy is not always good for your household finances.
Consumer spending makes up nearly 70% of US GDP, which means a rise in consumer spending can spur economic growth. But a rise in consumer debt can lead to a hard pullback in spending, which can cause what's called deflation.
Deflation is just generally associated with not just recessions, but deep recessions in the economy.
A recession occurs when there's, quote, a significant decline in economic activity that is spread across the economy and lasts more than a few months.
Historically speaking, deflation means that prices are actually coming down. And the reason why prices are coming down is because people aren't spending money. The reason why people aren't spending money is because they don't have jobs and they can't afford to go out and take a trip to Hawaii or go out and buy a new Lexus or do those kind of things. They're just kind of trying to tread water and they're not even doing that. So therefore prices are going to have to keep coming down.
This is why so many people are saying that almost everything is in a bubble right now. People are spending money on their credit cards that they don't have, not even cash anymore, just numbers on a banking app, and that's basically what's propping up the US economy. We can't just be doing this till the end of time. Something is going to have to give, and the longer it takes, the bubble is just going to get worse.
It's important to remember that there's not just one consumer story.
You have the same consumer that might be out there spending on travel, going to events, whether it's concerts or sporting events, which we are seeing very, very clearly, and that's driving some of these travel trends. And they're doing it in a way that's really strategic. At the same time, that same strategic consumer might be walking into a store and really thinking carefully about how they're spending, looking for the best promotion, the best discount. So it's not one story for the consumer. And I think that's really important because it creates a lot of complications in the narrative, because you have consumers looking for discounts, you have consumers looking for promotions, and you have consumers that want to make their dollars work the best they can in the way that works for them.
So I do like that they put this segment in the video. This is the chief economist for MasterCard. Of course, she's going to say, not everybody's absolutely destroying their credit right now. Some people are making good moves. Please keep using MasterCards. And I understand it's not like every person on the planet is just making the worst possible decisions they could make. Like I said with the miles and points and cash back before, if you know what you're doing and pay your card off in full, you could get some really good bonuses depending on what kind of card you have. But when statistics constantly come out that the average credit card debt per user has gone up by X amount in this time frame, that means overall it's still becoming a bigger problem. Not everybody is contributing to the problem, but it's still a problem nonetheless.
Financial experts say the key to affording a vacation is to plan ahead. Advisors say the first step is figuring out what you want to spend and to set a budget for the trip.
This is our allowance for food, and this is our allowance for trips or activities. So you can kind of make sure your behavior is consistent with your values. Because money on trips can feel like monopoly money. I had a client I worked with who decided they were going to stay in an Airbnb and they were going to cook all of their food. So they were going to save on food and they were going to splurge on this boat trip they were really excited about. And it felt like a compromise.
The next step after establishing a budget would be making a plan to save.
You can start small and daily. Maybe you're going to set aside a little bit of money each day or each paycheck to this dream vacation. And it can be helpful to have kind of a calculation set up.
On top of setting aside the money, you can also find small ways to save on costs to make the most of your trip.
This kind of stuff just seems like basic, rational thinking to me. Plan the trip, have a budget, save money ahead. I mean, do you really have to tell people this now? Like, oh man.
There's times when you just have to be realistic. If you financially can't swing a vacation, can you get creative? Can you find a way to take a break from your life or mimic a vacation without the big expense?
Maybe even do a staycation. I think that's an underrated option. This idea of playing tourist in your local area. So there's a way to have fun without busting the budget.
Nearly half of Americans said they plan to skip their summer vacation, with 65% of them saying affordability was the main issue.
I kind of worry about both of those extremes. You have the people that are paying 20 or 25 or 30% extra to go on vacation, which is not great. But then you also have a lot of people skipping the trip entirely, which may be regrettable later on.
There's a ratio between the money being spent and the amount of time of your trip, and only you can decide if that experience, the memories of the 5-day vacation, is valuable enough to commit to having to worry about paying it off for months in the future.
It's crazy that the argument of possibly regretting your trips and memories makes it okay to just go in debt when you clearly don't have enough money. Like they said earlier, just paying the minimum payments for the average credit card debt, which at the time was $6,000, it's now $7,200. It would take 18 years to pay off. So is a trip worth 18 years for you? But people don't want to hear no, they can't go on vacation. They see everyone else going on it in social media and they want to be a part of that group too. But the memory type of stuff, especially with your kids, like I said, I've never been to Disney and I'm not mad at my parents that we didn't go to Disney World when I was a kid. I mean, we didn't have the money for it, just plain and simple, and that doesn't change anything between me and my parents. But here we could look at some of the comments from this video. The credit card debt lasts longer than the memories of the trip. Vacations are a luxury, not not mandatory. Taking time off from work is necessary and extremely beneficial. I agree with that too. But not if it costs you and makes you go into debt. Yeah, people's 9-to-5s could be grueling and stressful and make you get gray hair and your hair falls out. You know what I'm trying to say, right? But wouldn't the exact same thing happen, if not worse, at least with my experience, how I think, if I was actively making poor decisions while going on vacation to try to relieve the stress and just making my financial life worse for myself down the road? And number 3, staycations are highly underrated. Don't travel, but take time to enjoy the place you live. Social media's got to be one of the biggest contributors. I 100% agree. People want to look rich and impress people online that can care less about them than to actually be rich by saving and investing. When you go on vacation and have no debt, the vacation hits different, more enjoyable not worrying about the debt. That's the overall sentiment in this comment section. I use the credit cards for many things, including vacations. Yeah, at least for me personally, I almost never use my debit card unless something went wrong with a couple of the credit cards that I hold everywhere. I get all the points and the miles and the cash back that I possibly can, but I clear those charges out every month. Bank sees me as dead meat and I love it because we're not the ones that these banks are making money off of. But there are so many people who are making poor decisions and getting into crazy amounts of debt from the interest payments that's how they could offer all of these extra bonuses for people who actually pay off their debt every month. I mean, it is a give and take because if every single person on the planet did pay off all of their debts, probably wouldn't see those bonuses and extra percentages off anymore on our credit cards. But if you know what you're doing, you're just getting back free rewards. I plan my vacation 6 months in advance and go during non-peak season. You'll save up to 50%. Americans have another option, wait and save. Not in today's world, man. Everybody needs it right now. Also, live below your means is so much easier to wait, save, and pay. Again, just not how many people think in the age of social media. Lifelong memories. I remember my dad taking me camping and teaching me to fish. I don't know why these extravagant vacations are the only way to make family memories, especially if you are young. I feel like that's a master marketing tactic towards Disney. Every kid's got to go to Disney World once in their life. And if you've ever seen any of the prices for absolutely anything, the tickets going into any of the parks, of course the flights, because not everybody lives in Orlando, Florida, the food there, the merchandise, it is just ridiculous. But with all the commercials and all the movies, I mean the Super Bowl, every single time the team wins, where are they going? I'm going to Disney World. Like, the marketing and advertisement all across the country is just unreal. But I'll end off this video like I started. I don't have a problem with people going on vacations if you can afford it. Go somewhere in the world every single month if you could swing it. It doesn't matter to me. But if you feel like you need to take on credit card debt to get away from it all for the next 5 days or 7 days or whatever, it's just going to end up making your entire life worse. But that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and I'll talk to you guys later.